Hi, I am Mr. Reliable and today I'm going to explain One Lucky Day, the grand finale of Squid Game spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. After Sabyok's death, Sang-woo and Ji-hoon are taken for the sixth and the final game as they stand before each other. The staff reveals that in the last game they will either have to be on the offense or defense. Gaeun, clearly still livid with Sang-woo, wins the toss and chooses offense. The two are then lead into a field where they played the very first game. Red light, green light. In the middle of the field, a geometrical figure of a squid is drawn. The VIPs again observed the game from a higher platform. The overseer explains to them that the last game is called Squid Game. It was a children's game that was played in Korea many years ago. The attacker Ji-hoon has to be inside the squid's drawing to win the game. He has to run past the defense Sang-woo and tap the squid's face with his foot. If Sang-woo manages to push Ji-hoon out of this withdrawing, he wins the game. And lastly, if one of them cannot continue the game for any reason, the last one standing will win. When they are inside the squid's body, Ji-hoon and ask the staff in what scenario they will not be able to continue the game. The staff replies that the last scenario is if a player dies, hinting that killing each other is absolutely fair. In this game, the overseer tells the VIPs that any kind of violence is allowed in Squid Game and there are no restrictions. Ji-hoon takes his position and ties his shoelaces, ready to fight his old friend, while Sang-woo takes his position with a knife. The game finally starts. And Ji-hoon asks Sang-woo if he remembers how they used to play this game when they were young. As Sang-woo tries to attack him, he throws dirt into his eyes and easily makes his way to the squid's neck. Just then the sky goes dark and it begins to rain. Sang-woo knows that Ji-hoon is upset because he killed Sabyok. He makes an excuse saying that she was going to die anyway. He just saved her from a lot of pain. However, Ji-hoon doesn't buy his shits and calls him out for killing her because of his greed. Sang-woo finally comes clean and says that he killed her because Ji-hoon would have stopped the whole game just to save her. And since the majority would vote to stop it, he would have to go back home with no money. Ji-hoon and takes his knife out and tells him Sabyok stopped him from killing Sang-woo last night. He says that he won't let Sang-woo take the money at any cost and attacks him. The two struggle, trying to kill each other with their knives, but they soon lose their weapons and combat with their hands beneath the rain. A while later both are muddy and tired, but they don't stop fighting. Sang-woo gets his hand on a knife and stabs Ji-hoon in his thigh. Ji-hoon lies limp on the ground, while Sang-woo asks him if he remembers this playground from the first game. He attacks Ji-hoon with the knife, intending to end him, but it only stabbed through his palm. Ji-hoon bites his leg and turns the match around. Both are bloodied when Ji-hoon sits on top of Sang-woo and attacks him with the knife, but instead of killing him he stabs the ground beside his head even after all Sang-woo has done. Yay, and doesn't kill him. He simply stands up and makes his way to the squid's face. The VIPs declare Ji-hoon the winner, and the staff points his Ji-hoon at Sang-woo on the ground. However, before Ji-hoon can reach the head, he turns back and stops the man from shooting Sang-woo. He asks him if they both agree to terminate the game while they get out alive. The staff calls the overseer and asks if that is possible. The VIPs are shocked to see Ji-hoon willing to sacrifice all that money and hard work for his unfaithful friend. A heavily injured Sang-woo asks if he remembers his mother cooking them supper when they were little. After they play it every day, Ji-hoon extends his hand to his friend and asks him to come home, but Sang-woo apologizes to him, takes the knife from the ground and stabs himself in the neck. Ji-hoon freezes in shock as his friend takes his last breath. Sang-woo tries saying something about his mother but dies before he can. A heartbroken Ji-hoon cries while holding his dead friend in his arms. Ji-hoon has finally won the game along with 456 billion won. In the following scene, Ji-hoon unites in a limo with the overseer. He has his hands tied and his eyes blindfolded, so he cannot see the man. The overseer congratulates him for winning the game, but Ji-hoon asks him who he is instead of answering. The overseer activates the gas valves in the limo, making Ji-hoon unconscious again. After a while the limo stops by the side of a busy road and someone throws Ji-hoon out. Just then a man helps Ji-hoon by removing his blindfold. Ji-hoon realizes he has something inside of his mouth and spits out a credit card. He goes straight to the ATM and enters the card without thinking much about the pen. He enters his player number 0456G, and then withdraws a single 10,000 won note and sees he still has 456 billion won in his bank account. However, Ji-hoon doesn't seem happy about the revelation. In fact, he doesn't react at all to him. The death of 455 people is not worth the money in his bank account right now. He takes the bill and returns to his house. On his way, Sang-woo's mother stops him and asks him about his injuries. The old woman asks him if he has heard from Sang-woo, while Ji-hoon just stands there, holding back his tears. Having witnessed Sang-woo's death just a few hours ago, he hands Sang-woo's mother the 10,001 bill, then returns home. He finds his mother lying limp on the floor. He asks her to wake up, but unfortunately, she doesn't. Gain's mother had died while he was away. He cries in pain and lies down beside her. The only reason Ji-hoon joined the game again was to pay for his mother's treatment, but even she is gone. The scene then cuts to a year later. Ji-hoon is on a train traveling somewhere. He looks to be in bad shape as his hair has grown out and his beard is untrimmed. He has a grim look on his face, just like he had a year ago after returning from the game, indicating that nothing much has changed since then. It turns out he is going to the bank where his money was transferred after the game. The bank manager sweet-talks him because of the amount of money in his bank account. He wants to go in to transfer his money to another account so that he will receive more interest. As he talks, Ji-hoon replies with a vague answer and looks totally uninterested. After a while Ji-hoon gets up and surprises the manager by asking to borrow 10,000 from him. The manager is left speechless but gives him the money anyway. With that money Ji-hoon goes to a beach and sits by himself while drinking. A woman selling roses pleads with him to buy one, so he does with the rose. She also gives him a tiny envelope. Ji-hoon opens the envelope and is surprised to see a golden card with the symbol of Squid Game on the back of the card, and address and time are written. Eunice beyond surprised but is determined to find answers as to why the game was being played and who was behind it. He goes to the address written on the card and ends up in a room with an old man lying on a hospital bed. When he nears the man, Gae freezes in shock. The man is player number 10, Enam. Enam asks him for a glass of water and Ji-hoon quietly gives it to him. Ji-hoon composes himself and asks Enam who he actually is and if he was the mastermind behind the games. Enam ignores his questions and points out a drunk and passed out man on the street through the window. He asks Ji-hoon if he still trusts people after all that he has been through. And in turn gets more irritated by the second and asked him the same question again. Enam then tells him he wants to play a game. If someone helps the drunk man before midnight, Ji-hoon will win and Enam will answer all of his questions, but if no one helps the drunk man, Enam will be the winner. Ji-hoon loses his cool and strangles Nam, but he stops when the old man claims he wouldn't get answers to his questions if he kills him. Go in quietly, obliges and looks at the clock. 20 minutes left until midnight. They wait for someone to help the man in silence. After a while, he again asks the old man who he is. Enam comes clean by saying that he is the mastermind of the game. He and some of his extremely rich friends were bored even though they had a lot of money. They had no happiness in life, so they all came up with this plan to somehow make their life more interesting. He wanted to meet Ji-hoon because he hasn't used any of his prize money and is still living his old life. Enam asks if Ji-hoon hasn't used the money because he feels Ji-hoonalty. Ji-hoon and claps back by saying that Enam should be the one feeling Ji-hoonalty for killing so many people. But Enam claims that the players chose to come to their game of their own free will. He didn't force anyone and then inquires why he joined the game himself when he could have just watched them. Inam claims that he missed his childhood days and wanted to live them one more time before dying of a brain tumor. As they talk, a person approaches the drunk man in the streets, but walks away right after. Inam continues saying he doesn't regret joining the game because he was the happiest he had been in a long time while he was playing with them. As he says, his last words, only a few seconds are left until midnight. A police car suddenly stops in front of the drunk man. The person who had approached him earlier had gone to ask for help from the police. Seconds before midnight, the man is saved and Ji-hun and wins the bet, but it is too late because Inam takes his last breath and dies before revealing any more about the game. Ji-hun and looks at the old man's face for the last time and leaves. Then we see the flashback of the time they were playing the fifth game. The main man of the game takes off his mask and reveals himself to be Inam. Back in the present day, the overseer of the game In-ho closes in on XYZ. In the following scene we see Ji-hun at a barbershop. He has finally gotten closure from the mastermind of the game himself, so he feels better for the first time in a year. He walks out of the shop with bright red hair, indicating a new and fresh start. Perhaps he's going to become a Twitch streamer. Ji-hun and then goes to the orphanage where Sae-byeok brother lives. He greets the little boy who starts talking once Ji-hun and mentions Sae-byeok. Ji-hun is there to fulfill the promise he had made to Sae-byeok. He takes the little boy to Sang-hwa's mother and asks her to take care of him. The old woman happily welcomes the little boy and treats him with love. Given then gives her some luggage and leaves. After he is gone, she opens the luggage looking for a jacket for the little boy, but instead finds it full of money. Surprised, she calls Ji-hun's name, but he is already gone. And then makes his way to the subway. While on a call with his daughter, he is going to US to meet her after a whole year at the station. He is beyond surprised to see the game's salesman who handed him the card and got him into all of this chaos. The man is playing the same game with someone else and smiles when he sees Ji-hun. Ji-hun runs towards him before he can catch him. The man gets into a train and leaves. Ji-hun takes the card from the other man who he was playing with and warns him not to go there at any cost. He then makes his way to the airport but calls the number from the card one last time. The person from the other end asks him for his name, date of birth, and if he wants to play the game. Ji-hun tells him his name, surprising the man on the other end. He then tells him that he isn't a horse that they could bet on. The man recognizes him and calls him number 456. He tells Ji-hun to get on the flight and continue with his life for his own good. Ji-hun tells the man that he will never forgive the people who made them play the game. He cuts the call and turns back around, determined to bring the game to an end. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and if you have the chance, be sure to watch Squid Game in full on Netflix.